My name is Guido Palazzo. I teach business ethics at HEC Lausanne. I studied in Germany. I studied business administration and philosophy and did my PhD in philosophy. If I would summarize what I do in a nutshell, I would say I investigate the dark side of the force. So I have always looked into the unethical behavior or the ethical challenges organizations are facing. I've started in the early 2000s by analyzing human rights violations in supply chains. I've worked on how organized crime penetrates supply chains of normal legal companies. And in recent years, I've specialized more into the analysis of what's going wrong inside companies when they have a scandal, for instance. Think about Dieselgate, Volkswagen. Think about the Boeing crashes. How is it possible that organizations can totally destroy their ethics in a way that they end up doing systematically illegal and immoral things? All these scandals that on the surface look so different. Behind that surface, there is the same pattern of 9 things that happen again and again. And if we know that pattern, we can better protect organizations against the dark side. The pattern, which we call the dark pattern, with its 9 elements, includes, for instance, toxic leadership. So you have in all these cases bad bosses. You have goals that cannot be achieved. You have incentives that are too narrow. You have a language that is too aggressive. So there's a set of elements that you find again and again in these scandals. And they have to do with leadership and with corporate culture. So when I was working on my PhD, I realized that the world had changed in a way that was no longer corresponding to what we assumed companies were doing. It was the time of the rise of multinational companies. And suddenly, we had human rights violations in the products that we were buying, something that didn't exist before anymore. And we had no theory to describe that. We had no theory to tell us what companies were supposed to do in a world where they would go global, but governments would not. So that was my first motivation to go deeper into this question of how can we solve the ethical questions that come with the change that globalization brings. The second motivation for my later research on scandals and on unethical behavior in organization comes from this insight that we always assume when we see something bad happen, whatever bad is for us, that it's bad people doing it. We ascribe it to character. But when you look into these scandals, you see normal people like you and me. And the question is, how is that possible? How can normal, average people with good values behave in an unethical or even illegal way? Today, probably no company can allow itself not to manage ethics. So we need to train young people to have the skills to manage all dimensions of ethics in organizations, from sustainability to the climate of integrity to CSR, to supply chains. Things have to be done today by young managers that haven't been done before. And integrity is one of our key values at HEC. So we want to produce, to educate young people with strong ethical principles and a skill set that helps them to manage this larger responsibility. We know since so many years that we have to change our lifestyle because our lifestyle is not sustainable. We have multiple ecological crises, and yet we still don't change. So to understand how people can ignore the moral dimension of their decisions, how they can insist on a totally distorted understanding of their reality, that is something I've always been fascinated about. And analyzing scandals gives me the tool set to analyze any kind of resistance to change when people become irrational. We are in a perma-crisis, but we can get out of this crisis. We just have to understand better how humans make good decisions. That includes how they make better moral decisions. And that is how I see my contribution. And I remain hopeful.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.